and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Estate World Podcast. All right, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So, all right, well, we're gonna get going here. This is Scot Pekarek with the Corona Chronicles, day four of the of our real-time analysis of the crisis and what's going on. And we have a special guest, a man who needs no introduction, Adam Smith, who is one of my coaches in Wake Up Warrior Week number 58, approximately 1 year ago today.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it was. Well, for those of you that have been following, Warrior Week was about a month preparation before Adam, you can describe it a little bit better, and then maybe talk about what you're doing now.
Well, so for those of you who have been following Scott's journey, what he did initially was this thing called Warrior Week. It's a 30-day lead up to a roughly 7-day in-person experience, which is all about sort of waking up, like understanding the reality of the world and where you are. What's interesting though now is there were some major shifts in that space with that company. And so myself and a very special guest who I think should be on here about 15 or 20 minutes, when we stepped away from the company, we started our own company called, let me just shift, Forge Legend. And so basically Forge Legend, the concept behind Forge Legend, this idea and understanding that there's so much more to living life than just trying to like create wealth for yourself and your family. There's so much more to being a fully invested individual into everything that you do. And so this idea that it's really cool to live a life and to want to leave a legacy, but even the most poor person, the biggest douchebags in the world, all they have to do to leave a legacy is die. Like that's just it, right?
Right.
So it's beyond that. It's about leaving a legend. It's about living a legend, creating a legend. Because here's the thing: how many kings were there in the history of Great Britain? Do you know?
Several.
Yeah, there was a lot, right? Name 10.
Yeah, I mean, you go with the Georges, the Edwards.
Yeah, we can get the basic like James, George,
right?
Edward,
Yeah, throw some darts at the wall,
yeah.
and you'll
But
hit
the
a
first
few.
one that
You don't
usually
know
comes to
anyone.
mind is what? Arthur, right? King Arthur.
Yeah,
and
right.
The Arthurian legend, the legend of a character that we haven't thought that might be real, but in reality, just the way this guy lived his life, the way this person lived his life, left a legend, an impact, an impression upon every single person in the world that came in contact with him. So we still talk about it. Kind of crazy.
One of my favorite quotes is from the movie Excalibur, and it came from Merlin after they had just basically they'd won, for the time being, and he said, "Remember this moment, savor it, celebrate it, for it is the doom of men that they forget." Right?
That's exactly right.
And we're going through a period of economic hardship right now, and when things are going really well, it reminds me, when they're going really well, we forget that, that these things tend to cycle out a little bit. So anyway, I interrupted you, but
no, you're exactly on point. I think one of the crucial things that people miss quite often, especially when we have these ups and downs, these giant wave patterns of gain and loss, is the human condition in general is forgetful in nature. We get lost in the good, we get lost in the bad, and we forget the good. We get lost in the good and forget the bad, and then the bad comes back and smacks everybody in the face. And you have all this panic buying and hysterical purchasing of 137 rolls of toilet paper and all the paper towels and all the napkins and all the tissues, all because people realized they were completely unprepared for something. And it doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't have to be a viral pandemic that takes place. It's literally anything that could cause an emergency in that person's life. They're not ready for it. They're completely unprepared for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I read the psychology of the toilet paper hoarding. It's, there's in a time of crisis, people feel like they need to do something when they're unprepared. So toilet paper is like the cheapest thing that they can do, so they can feel like they've accomplished something to help get through the crisis. And that's like the toilet paper and the paper towels. That's like the simple thing to do. And now it's amazing. You walk through the stores and Adam, where are you right now? What physically, where are you located?
So I'm right outside of Louisville, Kentucky on the Indiana side of the river. So like where Indiana and Kentucky butt against one another.
Okay. And are you in a state of lockdown or
So
quarantine or
the
what?
state of Kentucky shut down all non-essential businesses last the end of what is today? No, Monday,
Monday?
Sunday night they did. Indiana followed suit Monday, Tuesday, and also shut down all non-essential businesses as well. What we're seeing is that even though Kentucky sort of shut down non-essential businesses and started limiting transportation and exposure early on, the number of confirmed cases are quite equal to one another in Indiana and Kentucky right now. So, um,
Interesting.
yeah,
So there's like a shelter in place order, or is it more just an advisory?
there's not been an official quote unquote shelter in place, but there has been like, hey, if you don't need to be out, be home. And if you're a non-essential business, be home. So it's not anything, I would say it's not anything as far as what California's done
Yeah.
with regards to a shelter in place, or New York City or New York in general with a shelter in place order, like a demand that has come out to the extent where if you're outside, we're going to fine you. But
I heard there's something like 200 flights to Florida every day from New York still going on. Like
I
people
believe it.
are fleeing the city or whatever to get out of because that is the epicenter right now in the United States from what I'm
Yeah,
hearing. I
it's
mean,
got the most exponential growth of confirmed cases than anywhere else in the US. I think also too though, there's a direct correlation between and again, like understand that what we're talking about is we're talking about the best numbers that we can collect from the data available,
correct.
right? And so the conversation that you and I can have is a conversation based on the best numbers that we can collect from the data available, but there's still a lot of best guess that's happening when it comes to crunching numbers.
Yeah, because there's so many people who just haven't taken the test or the tests aren't available, the widespread use. So yeah, I've heard, and one of the goals of doing this, about an hour every day is to, we don't want to spread fear. We don't want to spread panic, right? We're talking like what I like to focus on is, okay, what is it that we're seeing? What can like the layperson do? And talk a little bit too about some of these numbers because, if they're looking at number of people tested, that is just a small subset of the population and the people
Yeah.
that are positive and the people that are, unfortunately there are people dying from this, many of which have underlying conditions and stuff, but like, what are the real mortality rates, right? If they're basing just on the people who have tested but there could be, there's literally 330 million people in the United States. And what I like to focus on is, what can we do as human beings, as social creatures to, have a positive, healthy mindset, healthy habits,
It's a good question, and it's a really good concept because the number one focus that you actually brought it up like 3 times. The number one focus that everybody keeps looking at is everybody keeps looking at the numbers. And if you look at the media, and this is, look, I'm not going to take a political side in this stand or in this fight. I have some dogs in the fight personally because of what my own personal beliefs on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness sounds like. After 17 years in the military, and the majority of that time as a Green Beret in the Special Forces, like I truly.
Can you tell a little bit about your background, just a little bit, so people
Sure,
know
yeah.
they're not dealing with this somebody crawled out from underneath. Well, maybe you did crawl out from
Maybe I
underneath
did.
a rock.
Yeah, that's right.
But
so I spent roughly 17 years in the Army and right around 10 years as a Green Beret in the U.S. Army Special Forces. I've been deployed all over the world multiple times. I've fought a little bit of everything: the global war on terror, counter narcotic operations in Central South America. We've done operations other than war in Southeast Asia. I worked in DC for a little while for the Defense Intelligence Agency, doing some other stuff. Like I've been around a little bit. When I got out, I'm a small business owner. I own I started a small custom knife making forge. I owned a CrossFit gym. I did tactical training for literally thousands of law enforcement officers across the country. I'm a personal professional development coach and mentor for Forge Legend, which is like that's the show right now. And the show right now is about this conversation, right? Like
right.
What we're talking about right now is the perfect conversation to have because the mentality of being healthy is just as crucial as the physical appearance of health. And being healthy requires daily effort. And this idea, like going back to fear and panic and hysteria, people are in fear, they're in panic, and they're hysterical over so many things. Don't think that I'm saying that what's happening is not serious. There's some serious considerations here. What I'm saying is that people got caught with their pants down, literally caught with their pants down. So they're running out and panic buying toilet paper and paper towels. And as you said, and as those of us who try and consume as much information as possible, the psychological studies indicate and show that when you are unprepared, you do the most simple or basic of steps in order to feel like you've done something to be prepared. So in reality, the reason why we're sold out of toilet paper is because out of the 337 million people that we have in the United States, less than 1% is truly prepared for the possibility of this.
Right.
And
Yeah, I
that's
would
just,
say it's a fraction of 1%, right?
yeah,
Like they say in times of crisis, people rise to the occasion. No, you retreat to your highest level
of training.
preparedness, right? Yeah,
That's
your highest
exactly
level
right.
training. Right.
Yeah, yeah. When shit hits the fan, they say people rise to the occasion, but in reality, it really is that you fall back on your highest level or lowest level of training, because it's all about muscle memory.
Right.
And so, one of the things that we're doing at Forge is we're really trying to focus on and really help people focus on daily consistent effort to be better, right? Like, what sort of daily routine do you have in order to get yourself mentally prepared for the day, physically prepared for the day? And if you're a divine person or a spiritual person, like connecting yourself to the divine, that as you understand it. So how can you get these three concepts aligned? And then how can you do all of those things and still be connected to your family, still be connected to your business, and disallow fear from holding you back from continuing to move forward and progress and prosper?
Right. Right. No, that's great. I mean, well, obviously, Coach Adam, you helped me personally a lot with, as more so with the mental game than the physical. Not that there wasn't some physical things that we had to do and goals that we set, but for me, and I've spoken openly about it more in the last 6 months than ever before, but just struggling with alcohol and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I wanted to drink every day. I mean, it turns out we would, but it wasn't like I was getting hammered every day. But then there was I'd go through phases where I'd especially once I started intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet, and was trying to change my life completely when I found out I had like a brain tumor. And the effect alcohol had on me post like starting the ketogenic diet, I was like blacking out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'd have 2 or 3 drinks and like not intending to bong beers and doing shots off the bartender's rear end or anything like that, like, not that wouldn't be awesome, but like, and I was like, I had to quit. I just had to stop because what was becoming a problem had flipped over to like this whole other world where I just, and it's funny that, we not funny, but we have our subconscious, right? That's our habits, right? And that's how we've been programmed over our lives. And, what you guys are doing, like when you talk about the mental aspect, what you're really doing is you're training, right? You're creating new habits and you're reprogramming that tape, right? Because that's what we're going to fall back on, like things that piss me off. Well, if I look back, throughout my life, like, I have insecurities and I will, my longing to be accepted, right, and to be loved. And we talked about this, when we were together for like Warrior Weekend afterwards, about how that leaves me, what my fear of not getting affection makes me not give affection because I'm afraid it won't be returned, right? So like, there's different
there's a fear of vulnerability involved there. Like if I give affection and show you that I care, I open myself up to the possibility of being used and that not returned to me, which then usually puts us into a position where we're questioning our value, and we're questioning value based on other people's perception of whom we are, not based on the knowledge and certainty of who we are. And that ties directly into what we're facing. Like that really ties directly into what we're facing right now. You see that there are 3 types of people really truly in the world. I think people get a chance to really actually see this in an emergency situation, in a situation that causes great amount of chaos. You get 3 different types of people, right? You get the people that fight. They're the ones that understand what we are, where we are. They accept that they're mortal. They accept that they have no control over the totality of this. So they only control what they can control, and they fight back in the way that they know how. You have people that run away, people that literally actively run away. So they hide, they cower, they cover, they bury themselves. And the only thing that they can see is all the negative information that's out there that gives them the psychological response that it's okay to continue to hide from the reality of the world. And then you get the people that freeze in place. They take no action. They're not fighting and they're not running. They're just stuck. And all they see is that it's a self-licking ice cream scoop of despair. So every time they go to take a step forward, they see the possibility or the impossibility of not going forward, but they can't take a step back because they're afraid to go backwards. So they get stuck in this spot, right? Those are the three principal types of people: fight, run, or freeze. And so I think the idea of daily preparedness, I have tattooed on my forearms, it's Si vis pacem parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. But the idea behind this is that the preparation for war is the daily fight. Like every single day I wake up and I'm ready to do battle with the day. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going out to be aggressive or I'm going out to beat anybody up. That's not the concept. It's that when we face obstacles, how will we overcome those obstacles, or will we choose to allow those obstacles to force us back into a hole? And so overcoming fear, if you look at the special operations organizations in the United States as a whole, there's this thing called stress inoculation that takes place. And so through regular and repeated training of induced very high stress levels, we actually train guys in the special operations community to not only be able to peak at those high levels, but to recover from those high levels rather quickly and process the information in a way that doesn't ensue panic.
Respond versus react, and just, yeah. No.
Yeah. And let's be real. If something happens outside of ourselves, it puts us into a position of reaction, period. Like we see it and we react. But the difference between response and react is reaction is instantaneous without thought. You throw a punch and I block it. That's a reaction, right?
Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, exactly. You throw a punch, I block it. That's exact. Wash on, wash off. That's an instantaneous reaction based on our lowest level of training. The response is, why did you throw a punch? Now that I've blocked the punch, now that I've been able to overcome the potential threat, now the question comes back to why? Why is this happening? Like, what's going on to make this happen? And so in this particular situation, I think the question is not why is there COVID-19? Why is coronavirus happening? What like, that's not the question to ask. The question is, why are you reacting in the way that you are? Not you, Scott, but anybody.
Right. Anybody.
Right? Like, that's the question. Why are you reacting the way you are? Did you have a plan? But oh, dude, I'm on fire right now. You got me fired up. It goes so much beyond it, right? It goes so much beyond toilet paper and paper towels. Like, it goes into whatever you do for business. What is the plan that you have for your business? So there's this piece of planning that we discuss in special operations and in Forge that we teach on. It's called PACE, Primary, Alternate, Contingency, and Emergency. And a PACE plan is the way that we plan for every aspect of an operation. And it's also a way for us to think through possible outcomes, because there's this idea that once you get into contact, no plan survives. Like this term, no plan survives first contact. So if you're able to look at planning and you're able to put in contingencies in place, those contingencies may or may not work. The purpose of having contingencies is to get your brain into a place to respond to obstacle rather than react to obstacle. So the purpose of planning is planning with purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. It's kind of like, I've adopted the philosophy. It's the obstacles that come in front of us are you look at them as the opportunities for the transformation, right? Like I think it was Dan Sullivan, one of the guys I mentors of mine as well. He talks about it. Obstacles are raw materials for the opportunity, and you look at and you welcome every day. Another great book, the War of Art. They talk about resistance and how every day they talk about it in terms of maybe more of a creator writer context, but really for anything like the day begins anew. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. You greet the day with a clean slate, knowing that the resistance will be there. There's going to be challenges, but through those challenges is the growth and the opportunity to become a better person. And nowhere is that more real than reality today, right? Where people, we're a property management company and we're a real estate brokerage. And, it's interesting to see what's going to happen with the real estate market here, number of transactions conducted in the next 2 to 3 weeks as there is a shelter in place order, basically. But then more so with, tenants who are trying to, who are wondering how they're going to pay their rent because they're laid off. The number of unemployment applications, the record prior to last week was 18,000 new applications. Well, last week, as of this past Monday, they shattered that record, 120,000 in the state of Minnesota. So
yeah, 3.4 million in the entirety of the United States.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
More unemployment applications than even during the Great Depression in the U.S. is a record right now.
It's unbelievable. And there's some help on the way, but what we did was we went out and we created a list of all the agencies we could find for now, and we're going to keep adding to people that can get help, whether it be if you lost your job and there's a chance you're going to go back, and we did include temp agencies. We included people that we know are hiring. We included places you can get food assistance, places you can get medical assistance, places you can get financial assistance, beyond the ones everybody knows about. And why? Because I will tell you, most people were completely caught off guard for this. And for, and what most people also, there's very little sympathy for property owners, like for landlords, right? Because everyone assumes, I posted on Facebook today, there's an assumption from a certain group of people that landlords are these fat cats wearing loincloths, sitting on mounds of cash, getting, having someone feed them dates all day long, while they're being fanned with a fig leaf. Well, the majority of landlords own like one property, right? And it's the one they couldn't sell during the Great Recession. It's really their only retirement money. And if someone stops paying them rent, what happens, right? And then these are folks who are living on less than 30 days of cash reserves, right? So they're going to be faced with a choice if they don't get rent. What do they do? And no one wants to evict anybody. Everyone just wants to get back on their feet and get to work again.
I think you bring up a really good point here, and that is that if you're a small business owner, if you're a landlord, if you're in this position, you have an opportunity. And I won't say so much as landlords, but basically small business owners, even people in real estate, like guys that own gyms. A buddy of mine's CrossFit gym owner. Another buddy of mine's a supplement. He owns a supplement store in town. I've got a couple of small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, now is not the time to cower. Now is not the time to hide. Now is the time to flex and shift and understand that, like, this is an opportunity for you to thrive. And I say that I hate that word so much. Don't survive, thrive. I don't like it personally because it's overused, but I'll use the term prosper. You have an opportunity to prosper in a lot of different ways. If you shift your operations model from trying to generate revenue to trying to feed your client with information and opportunity, you are going to find that as a small business, when all of this is done and we come out on the back side of it, I think you're going to find that you've bolstered your position twofold than the companies that are still just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Because here's the deal. Like, it's very possible that you might have to lay people off. It's very possible that people may have to apply for federal assistance in this time of panic, right? And they just passed an insanely giant $2 trillion omnibus spending bill with information in it that nobody even knows about right now. I have no question. Like, it bugs the crap out of me because there's things in there that probably don't need to be in there. And I hate that when it comes down to passing bills that are supposed to support the American people, politics keep getting played.
Agreed.
From both sides.
Agreed. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
But there's an opportunity to find that support and assistance. And so with that opportunity to find a support and assistance, small businesses have got to take it upon themselves to not only become educated, but also provide education. And I think flexing that operations model will find small businesses coming out of the other side of this really prospering, because they will have an opportunity to develop an even tighter client business relationship.
Yeah, I think the focus right now for, and trust me, we all, like, no one gets it more than me. Like, there's real pain, like the restaurant industry, the travel industry. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in the travel industry, if you're a small, medium, or large business, you're suffering.
Yeah.
Restaurants, doesn't matter the size. Like, people are hurting right now. And what I'm trying to do is, like, how can we help, and how can we help our clientele? How can we help people who may be laid off? Like, what are ways, like every day, that's kind of the central thought process I have. Like, what can we do to help? Like, someone's laid off. Well, what can we do to help them pay their rent? Hold on. We've got our special guest coming on here.
Oh,
Coach Whitney.
no, actually that it may look like Coach Whitney, but it might be somebody else. We'll see.
Ah,
You're muted. You're muted.
He's on mute. Good.
So what's up, assholes?
Hey, you are Facebook Live there, Coach Kevin. So
Love you, assholes too.
Yeah, we're not worried about a few swear words. That's for sure.
I am not Coach Whitney, although I'm proud to wear the name.
I will change that real quick.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. So go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. This is your show.
Well, Coach Kevin, introduce yourself. I can't do you justice. Tell us. Tell our.
I'm Coach Kevin. I say some cool shit and I do some cool things, and I've helped thousands of men and hundreds of women. We're almost at that. Actually, it's probably thousands of women. I'll just say fucking thousands of men and women now. Really improve their lives by embracing the concept of, let me do the work, and who cares if I'm enough? I'm willing to do the work. Let's see what happens on the other end. And I'm fucking proud as hell of you, Scott. Like, we went through, I mean, you're just on fucking fire, and it's just like one of the only guys I know that just churns through problems. Like, oh yeah, I think I have cancer, but whatever, I got this thing and this other thing to do. And yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, I will say, just again, like Coach Kevin, pivotal to changing my life around. And I'm not saying I'm perfect yet. I mean, I'm still a work in progress. Anybody who knows me would vote for that as the right answer. But you guys, I can't say thank you enough. You guys have, you opened my mind up to worlds I didn't know existed. You gave me, you showed me things that I didn't believe I was capable of. All right. And I spent time in the last year thinking, oh gosh, there's all these things I need to do. But, when I look back at how things have changed, this time last year, I was doing videos on a closed group, workplace group on Facebook, fumbling through them, not being able to, finish it. Today I'm doing YouTube videos, Facebook Live to the whole world. And, you guys unlocked something in me. And it wasn't, if not for you guys, I wouldn't have been able to have the courage to deal with, getting a brain tumor in August, which ironically we find in Laguna Beach, which was the epicenter of like kind of my huge transformation and growth. So I just want to say thank you guys. I'm a big fan of what you're doing right now. And, as always, if there's anything I can do to help you guys and repay you for all the, the emotional, the psychological, all that support you gave me.
Here's how you repay me. Just fucking keep doing what you're doing, because it's amazing, man. Because like, here's the deal. We talk about phoenixes all the time. Like, it's cool to talk about, I'm a phoenix, I'll rise from the ashes, right? But it's not cool to burn. Like, it's not cool to burn. It's not cool to fall over. It's not cool to just get knocked the fuck down. But it's cool to be a phoenix. But no one wants to burn it. If I had to describe like what we did and the process you went through, that we still do with men and women all the time, is like, we are the guys who are not afraid to set you on fire because we know you're a phoenix. The thing is, there is no phoenix without the fire. And we've gotten comfortable in society where it's like, well, I want all the benefits of being a phoenix, but I don't actually have to burn. But that isn't true. And what happens at our events and in our things is like, hey, we set you on fire a little bit. Like, we say, hey, here's what's wrong. Like, here's this bone, kind of like you go to the doctor and they push on the broken bone and you're like, I just told you that's broken. I have to figure out what's going on. We'll set you on fire, but it's because we know you're a phoenix. And until you're willing to take the pain, you'll never rise.
Well, Adam started going into that a little bit more about what you guys are doing, and I know, because I've been watching, from afar, from the bunker here in flyover country. But tell the people who are are watching and who are gonna be listening later. The beautiful thing about this is, people can watch this anytime, and it'll be on our podcast and also on Facebook. So, but Coach Kevin, just what is it that you guys are doing? How can people sign up? What, just give a few more details.
Sure. Look, at Forge Legend, our mission is to light people on fire and have them living their own legend. This is not a game. of perfect coaches coaching people to be just like them.
And when you say people, do you mean men?
Men and women. So
okay.
on the women's side, we have Awaken Athena. Now we have a whole cadre of coaches. Like there's 6 female coaches on that side. So awakenathena.com for the women. For the men, it's forgelegend.com. Like we want you to forge your legend. I don't want to turn you into me. I don't want to turn you into Coach A. Coach A he's a badass. I love this guy. I think he's one of the best human beings on the planet. But if I turn Scott into Adam, what a failure. Horrible failure. Same thing in reverse. If we turn Adam into Scott, that would be a failure. Like we are powerfully imperfect people living the legend that we want to write with our lives. Everybody is telling their own story. Everybody has legend in their life, but very, very few people are telling the story of their life on purpose. You know, the greatest honor, like the greatest opportunity we have as human beings is to look fate in the face and not flinch. Just look fate in the face and not flinch. And with this COVID-19 thing and everything that's going on, hey, there's some shit out of our control. You hear like noises going on because my studio's suddenly in my house. It didn't used to be. I had a really nice studio downtown. Now it's in my house. Okay, but I can look that in the face and not flinch and just do the next thing. Doesn't mean I'm in control, but it does mean that I own the fact that I'm a powerfully imperfect force of fucking nature. Not the only force of nature, but I am one, and I'll act as such.
It's it's really interesting, Scott, when you think about where your journey, your personal journey, and your personal journey has been spectacular, and to be able to have been part of that, just even in a little way, is really humbling and honoring to see where you are now, to see who you were before and who you are now. Like you're Scott, but you're not the same version of Scott that was there before. I think there's this idea or concept that we can control all aspects of things that are happening in the world, and the more we attempt to insert ourselves into controlling all of these different aspects, the more we find that we have no control. And then we hide from the reality that there are things we can control, and we choose not to control those things because they're the hard things, right? It's like, I'd much rather tell you how fucked up you are, Scott, than ever go look at the mirror and see how fucked up I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? And especially right now, like this fear that people feel, this concern, this loss of control that people feel, this is like the darkness, the depths and darkness of despair. I mean, where I was at in 2016, January 2016, I was at the bottom of a hole with a pistol in my mouth, ready to kill myself because I was at the bottom of the pit of despair and I was lost myself, didn't know who I was. This fear that's happening right now it's instilling that same feeling into a lot of people. They don't know how they're going to make the next paycheck. They don't know how they're going to be able to feed their family. They don't know how they're going to be able to pay their bills. They don't know if they're going to get evicted. They don't know if the support that's going to come from the government or from small businesses or from the local, the local community is going to be enough to get through. And so, I'm going to use a really cliche quote here, but Kennedy said it best. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. In reality, the statement is ask not what everyone else can do for you, but what you can do for yourself. Not in a selfish way, but just to drive yourself through this hole that we're in right now.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Like there was I started doing like this, and it's so awesome to see you guys. I'm just giggling inside right now like a 6-year-old. But
he's just happy we can't punch him or put him in the mud.
Yeah, you can't throw me in a goddamn dumpster and throw gravel and cold water in on me. Jesus Christ. That's true story, folks. True story. But no, like even like just getting on the like doing like this, saying, hey, I'm committing to doing noon every day, and bringing people in and talking, right? And thank God for inventing Zoom. But like just, and I thought, I had the inner voice talking like, oh, no one's going to want to hear you. That's just stupid, Scott. Like, what the hell do you have to share? I'm like, well, you know what? There's a lot we can share. Like if we can reach a few people, doesn't have to be millions of people, but a few people and say, look, start with one. And you know what? One could be me. Like this helps me get my head straight in a time of crisis where I'm like, okay, quit worrying about your bullshit, Scott. Help somebody else. Like figure out ways to help other people, because that's how you're going to find your liberation. That's how you're going to keep your mind off, things you can't control, right? Because the perception of reality, our minds and bodies don't know the difference. Perception is real. Like if I perceive in stress, I perceive there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex waiting around the corner, and I've convinced myself there is one. Well, that's the same as there being one, right? And I'll cower in fear. So yeah, so like it just really like take it a step back and say, okay, how can I help, right? How can I help my neighbors? And it's kind of weird walking around now where, I usually run out in the woods and you run by people and they give you that weird look, like, okay, is he getting too close to me if it's somebody you don't know? And you're like, well, what's the proper distancing right now and all that? But anyway, I don't mean to pontificate. So
no, man,
that's what we're here for.
It is you helping you, and that helps other people. Like Frankel talks about, like if we set our sight on something that is beyond possible for ourselves as a human being. So if we elevate ourselves to divine, then we're able to live our full expression as a human being. If we set our sights on the mortal and regular, if we say that all we can ever do is what we already see, then we cheapen ourselves. Then all we can ever be is less than what we're capable of by setting our divine sights, by saying, hey, you know what? I do make a difference. I am a force of nature. I can make an impact. There's the story of the kid on the beach where there's a big swell comes in, of starfish get scattered all over the beach, and it's like millions and millions of these things, and they're drying out, they're dying, right? And this little kid is trying to throw them all back. And this man is walking on the beach. He sees the little kid. He says, hey, you're not gonna make a difference. Look, there's miles of starfish, these millions of these things. You're not even making a difference. Like, why are you wearing yourself? And the little kid picks up starfish, made a difference to that one. Picks up another one, made a difference to that one, right? And that's the thing. Like, and that is what we're doing. It's not about, like, whoever said you have to help the whole fucking world. Like, whoever said that? What our brain, some weird part of our mind that says, if I can't help 8 billion people, then I shouldn't help one. That's crazy. And it's the same of our mind that has us looking outside at beautiful nature and seeing invisible bugs of COVID everywhere, right? Like,
right.
Because we can't see it, our brain's like, well, it could be anywhere, therefore it's everywhere, which is not true. But that's what people see. Oh my God, it's everywhere. But it's not everywhere. Now we know where it is, and we get very, very comfortable what we don't know. The only certainty in life is an internal certainty. Like, is certainty in myself that I can handle the uncertain. Anybody who tells you of external things, beware of that person, because they're either a liar or they don't even understand how they're fucking themselves. You cannot be certain of external things. There is no certainty on the external. Like things happen. We're not in control of the tides and the spin of the planets and what comets are flying where and what viruses go where. Like, we're not in control, but we are in control always of how we respond. Like a bird on a branch is not comfortable on the branch because the branch isn't going to break. A bird on a branch is comfortable because it can fly. The branch breaks, no problem. I just fly to another one. If that one breaks, fine. I can fly all day. I'm a bird. And some of us have forgotten we can fly. And so we stockpile toilet paper and hand sanitizer and shit, you're a bad person, because you forgot you can handle whatever it is that comes. And in this time, Adam's got a video he's going to show. Like, in this time, doing the same thing as you, man. And like, literally, we're literally doing the same thing as you. We weren't even launching till Monday. If you go to our website right now, forgelegend.com, you won't even see this shit because it'll be up on Monday. But I want you to see the video anyway, Scott, if you'll indulge us, because it's powerful.
All right, so I need to.
I can share from my end, Scott.
We can share, man.
Are you
we got
the admin
you,
rights?
Bro.
All right.
Hey, no admin rights. I'm a guest, and you didn't lock me out, which means that I can manipulate your Zoom.
All right. Hey, go for it.
Now you just got to worry this isn't some video of him in Ranger paint.
Hey, everybody wants to see it, and nobody wants to see it. It's just like a train wreck. Here we go. All right, here you go, Scott. This is for you, brother.
All right.
I spent a long time thinking I knew exactly who I wanted to be and exactly what I wanted to do. For 17 years of my adult life, I knew that I wanted to be a Green Beret. And so every single day, from the time that I joined the Army at 17 until the day that I got out, I sought after that one thing. And eventually I got it. And I wore my beret for 10 years and operated all over the world as a Green Beret. And the thing that I enjoyed and loved truly the most I knew exactly who I wanted to be and exactly what when chaos ensued, time slowed down. I wasn't the one that froze in place or ran away. I love fighting. But when I got out of the military, I was lost. You see, my wife and I moved into this tiny little house. And I didn't know how I was going to feed the family or pay the bills. And so we relied on less than $19,000 a year just to get by. And that was all the money that she made, not a penny that I made. And my fear made me freeze. My fear made me hide in plain sight and tell as many stories as I could tell that things were okay and life was okay. And every time somebody asked me that question, every time someone asked me the question on how things were going, I would say the same thing. Everything is great, even though they could see it on my face that I was full of shit. That fear then is no different than the fear everyone is facing right now. The fear of not knowing when the next paycheck may come in because businesses have shut down. The fear of not knowing when you're going to be able to get your next grocery run because the stores either might be closed or they might not have any food available for you to get it. The fear of not knowing exactly what this world is going to look like when all of this hysteria comes down. This fear of freezing in place, of not being able to go forward or backwards, left or right, but stuck. This is not new fear. This is the same fear that we have felt time and time again. This is the same fear that you have felt time and time again. The fear of not knowing, not providing, not creating, and all the while putting on a happy face and letting the world see and know that everything is just fine. And the one person that you keep telling this story to is not just yourself, it's your family, it's your wife, it's your significant other. It's the person that you love more than anything in the entire world. And yet you don't have the ability to look at them in the face and say, I'm afraid, because of the fear of letting them down and putting them in a place of panic. On my path, on this journey of trying to figure out what the fuck I was gonna do with my life after I got out of the military, I came upon this concept, this idea. I realized that inside every single person, there is a spark, there is a fire. There is the ability to ignite light in your own life in order for you to shine it in the direction that you want to go. And when you shine your light outwards, the hope in the hopelessness is found. The light in the dark is found. The ability to actually produce and go forward is found. What I realized is that inside of every man, there's a different breed. It's a breed of man who was prepared and trained for the toughest of times. They have trained and invested not only to withstand all of the craziness, but to prosper through the craziness. That breed of man is a man who understands that playing the infinite game every single day is the only way to become better at life. And that does not mean that you're going to be perfect. It definitely doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I am just as fucked up as everyone else. The only difference is that when I shine my light on my imperfection, I am willing to look at the truth that I am not perfect. I am willing to look at the truth that I am the most perfectly imperfect person that in the fucking world, only because I accept that I am imperfect. My imperfection makes me better. My imperfection allows me to accept that I have fear and can still stand up against the fear and can still say, fuck you to the fear. My imperfection allows me to cry when I have feelings and emotions. It allows me to be angry, but it also helps me release the rage inside of me when I know that I have no other outlets other than the heavy bag downstairs, rather than fucking raising my voice and screaming at the top of my lungs, wanting to punch holes in walls. Forge Legend is a place to forge the legend of your life every single day by igniting the fire inside and understanding that there is a different way to live. We decided that we wanted to give this to you as a gift. In the midst of the chaos, in the midst of all the craziness, we wanted to give you the gift as an opportunity for you to light the fire inside and to forge the legend of your own life, even while the world burns. So I would like to invite you on this journey. I would like to invite you on this journey to awaken the sleeping giant inside and allow that motherfucker to stand up and stomp on the fires around your home and inside of your life, all while igniting that one spark inside of yourself. Now is the time to choose. Not to choose to pay or purchase or go out and spend more money, but the time to invest in self, to reconnect with you. This is our gift.
Wow. That was awesome.
Yeah, so it's not true right now because if you go to the website, it'll probably still try to sell you something. But as of Monday, which when we release this, we're actually giving away a free program that there's no upsell, there's no bullshit. Like we have gifts. Coach Adam and I, we're basically ready made for this. Like our program is basically like how to survive this and thrive inside of it and love your life while you do everything you got to do right now. And we just kind of have said like, you know what? We talked about it. We're like, hey man, we got exactly what the world needs right now. How much can we get for it? But once you get to the how much you can give for it, you start to have this weird knot in your stomach. And so we said, 30 days, we'll just get people in. Like we'll run a 30-day program for whoever wants to come in, free, no upsell, no bullshit. We just want to fucking help because we have the tools. We are the people who, when this happens, kind of like we're like, okay, we got this. Like I'm not terrified. There's shit to do, but I'm capable of doing it. And so is Coach Adam.
Well, and I think it's one of those things right now where people are looking for leadership. They're looking for, everyone's running that way. Like someone show me which way to run and buck the trend here, because the opportunity is where everyone's running from, right? Not running to. And the fear is powerful. Like it's people feel lost. The fear of the unknown is the worst, right? You said, we don't know, like if you don't know where the virus is, then it's everywhere. If you don't know when the travel restrictions are going to end, then they'll never end. Mm-hmm. If you don't know when you're going to go back to work, then you're never going back to work, right? It's just, you're caught in this maelstrom of indecisiveness. And like Adam, you said, some people just get paralyzed. And people are looking to be led. They're looking for something to hang on to.
That's exactly right. The human condition, when there's a lack of data, the human condition always returns back to personal and self survival, right? So the lack of a data we end up creating more data that's not real. We create the story inside of our mind that is worst case scenario, because if it's worst case scenario, then we know how to protect ourselves from worst case snenario, right? And so when the unknown is constantly being projected, like, hey, what are the markets going to do? When is the lockdown going to end? When are kids going to go back to school? What is the economy going to look like after this is over? How am I going to get my business back into like prosper mode again from what literally 2 weeks ago? Businesses in this country were seeing economic growth and gains that we have not seen in the history of this country. And 2 weeks later, we see a huge market downfall. We see businesses closing their doors. We see people laid off. We see a record number of people that are filing for unemployment. Like, holy shit, what are we going to do?
Yeah, we go from 4% unemployment to 24%. Who knows where that number ends up?
Yeah. And that's just it, right? Like that mentality of the holy shit, what are we going to do? That mentality has to shift and transition into, hey, you know what? Like all of this shit is happening. I don't get to control the virus. I don't get to control the lockdowns. I don't get to control this other stuff. But what I do get to control is my response, not reaction, my response. My ability to look through this problem and identify and think outside the box to create new solutions. Because ultimately that's what we have to do. And like you said, people are looking to be led, and small business owners, community leaders, this is a time for them to shine. This is a time for them to step up and spread hope and spread a message of resilience and let people know that there's going to be light at the end of this fucking crazy tunnel, rather than continuing to spread misinformation when it happens. I
love one of the things that's happening right now, as hard as it is. I love what this coronavirus thing is doing. Because we have a mantra that we live by inside of Ford's Legend. Truth first, integrity always. Truth first, integrity always. Here's the deal. Truth has an incredibly high value when you can't tell it. It's kind of like air. If I hold you underwater and you can't breathe, air has an incredibly high value. If I tied you underwater, like if I put you, Scott's like, hey, you've done that to me. If I tied you under the water with iron shackles, right? And it gave you a knife and you're tied, it wouldn't be long before you're willing to take your hand to get that air. Like air has infinite value when you don't have it. Here's the deal. The second you take your first breath, the value comes down. If you're up on the land right now, to me and you, air has basically no value because it has an infinite quantity and it's free, right? It's just there. So it has super high value when you don't have it. Truth is the same way. Truth has an incredibly high value when you can't tell it. And this world is full of liars, like just full of liars. And all of us went through a process together, right? To figure out like, how the fuck do I tell the truth? Once you're telling the truth though, Scott, it has very little value because it's just there all the time. It's kind of like the value of, is it raining? Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's not. And the truth of that has a value, but not a very high value. Integrity, though, building a man or a woman who knows who they are and who can show up consistently inside of all of the changing truth that's out there, that has a high value. That is the target. And so what's happening inside of this virus is everything is truth, right? Here's the truth. It started in China and it's not Chinese. It's a deadly killer and it's no big deal. It just depends on what house you are. Like I'm watching my social media feed be ripped and divided like every other, crazy political thing that's happened in this country over the last 10 years. But here's the thing. Everybody's right. If you just look at the truth of the matter, you're right. But there's something way beyond the truth that matters. And that is the integrity of who in the hell we are. And it's asking us, this whole situation is asking us a giant question. Who are you and who are you going to show up as? And once we start focusing on that, on the integrity of the situation and not just all these little blips of truth, that's when we start to come together as a people. That's when people start sending masks in and hey, we have all these construction masks, use these. And like those things are happening too, right? They're not making the news as much, but that's what has to happen is we have to come back to integrity. Truth is great. I love truth. But on its own, truth is a very, very low standard to live by. It is a low standard to live by. It's just breathing.
Well, you brought up the phrase duality last summer in one of our coaching calls and stuff. And I'm actually reading a book on duality right now, the myth of duality, right? And it's Andres Moritz. I just did a liver and gallbladder flush with this guy, and it's amazing what came out of my body. But I'm going to continue doing it because it's like the path to healing. But the guy, he talks about, we create, it's, we live in this world of right and wrong and black and white and, good and bad. And it's just, the reality is that life isn't that simple, right? Like it's, and if we truly want to transcend our current selves, we have to look at ourselves as important, but we also have to look at the, this higher consciousness and what, the whole myriad of possibility that's out there. And it's hard to do when you spend every waking minute glued to the TV or the internet where that's clickbait, and each headline is more sensational than the next. And you just lock into, we all have this, a filter called our worldview, right? And everything that we see gets filtered through and whether you love Trump or hate Trump, anything he does, you're either going to hate him for it or love him for it, right? And whether it's Pelosi or Schumer or McConnell, it doesn't matter, political figures, but whether and it could be a football team, I love the lowly Minnesota Vikings. And no matter what they do, I have this filter of skepticism because I'm like, well, you sons of bitches, you're not going to win the Super Bowl again this year. And I'm going to pay you lots of money for tickets and be pissed off half the year, But anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Now I'm thinking about the Vikings.
You actually, Scott, you're hitting it. But the aspect of duality is not only external, it's also internal. There's this aspect of duality where we constantly question ourselves because we don't see value or worth in what it is that we want. And oftentimes we don't even know what it is that we want. This is a crazy thing. This is a thing that we find pretty regularly when we have these conversations. If you ask 10 people, what do they want in life? 9 are going to give you an answer that is so broad and general that it doesn't actually have any definition. And 1 is going to give you an answer that's so finite that it means nothing. Literally, that's how this works. Like you ask somebody what they want and it's like, oh, well, I want to be happy and I want to have a good marriage. And like, well, what is that? How is it that people can try and strive for something more if they don't actually know or define what more is?
I'll never forget, like the first President Bush, there was a guy protesting, I think the Iraq war. I don't remember what he was protesting, but he was protesting at one of his press conferences. So he stood up and he I broke something and he yelled like, "Why are you giving no voice to whatever?" And I'll never forget the moment because President Bush just stopped the press conference. Okay. All right. Because they were pulling him out. Like the security's there. He's getting pulled. Oh, stop. Okay. I'm giving you voice right now. Like, okay, what do you have to say? I'm listening right now. And the guy's face, if you go look this up, is priceless because he has no idea what to say. He never even considered that he would be able to give a message. So he just is like, that is the.
Don't tase me, bro.
Yeah. Wait a second. I got my moment and now I don't even know what I want to say. Like the president is listening. But that is the face that I see on so many guys when we say, well, what do you want? And we get past that first layer of just bullshit.
It really, I love you guys brought this up because for most people, you ask them what they want and they're just flabbergasted. They don't know. Again, I want to be happy. Well, what the hell is that? And Coach Kevin, I'll never forget one of our coaching calls last summer. You talked about if you got a kid who's learning to ride a bike and they'll be going down the road and there'll be one car on the road. And that little son of a bitch will focus on the car. I'm talking about my kids. And they'll run into it because that's what they're focused on. That's what they set their sights on. And you're pulled, towards that. And if you don't have goals and things that you're striving for, you just drift listlessly through life. And, and again, the mind doesn't know the difference between a positive and a negative thing. So, I don't want to be angry. Well, what is the mind here? I want to be angry, right? Like, so if that's the thoughts that are going through your mind, that's what you end up being as angry. Or if you say, look, focus on, I want to, you have to set these goals and these wants and these desires in a positive, and you need to repeat them to yourself repeatedly. And a little exercise I just went through, I was doing positive focus every day and gratitude focus every single morning. I bought these little books and I was writing in them. And I do the gratitude in the morning and the positive at night, positive things that's happened, or I do the next morning from the day before. And I didn't do it last week, like the last 7-8 days. And I am so much more pessimistic now and negative because I didn't do that simple exercise every day. And I'm like, well, I don't have time for it. Well, how the hell do I not have time for it? Because my mindset changed so dramatically from like this person who is living in gratitude, being positive, no matter what the hell was coming through the door, and to like this person who, I'm still probably more positive than most, but I could see a noticeable shift in my mindset to the point where I got to start doing it. I'm going to do it. I did it today, hey, what am I thankful for? What am I
taking inventory, Scott? That this is the thing about taking inventory and taking account. This is something that the reason why we see so much panic in the world, especially in the United States, is because people fail to take inventory. They fail to take inventory of physical goods, things that they need for life, but they also fail to take personal inventory of self, things to be grateful for, things that they can work on, the actual targets that they set for what they want in life. They also fail to take inventory of assets and liabilities. What are they strong at? What are they not strong at? What do they want to be better at? What do they want to double down on with regards to their skills in life? Like there's this idea that if you take regular inventory and take regular stock or account for the good of what's happening, then ultimately our focus shifts to the good that we have. It doesn't negate the bad. The bad doesn't go away. Bad shit still happens. But our ability to, again, not react, but respond to the bad is because we've created a habit, a pattern, a psychological pattern, a physiological response to external stimuli, right? That's how habits are formed, to both good and bad. So we can literally assign, I'm grateful for these things, therefore these things are good. These things are challenging. They may not be bad. They just might be an obstacle or a challenge. Then we just had a conversation yesterday, actually, Coach Kevin and I and a group of guys that are inside the company, about this idea of, what's the difference between fragile and anti-fragile and what was it, robust? And the combination of this trilogy of concepts where something that's fragile is, broken or unbroken. Something that's robust is like unbroken and unbroken. And something that's anti-fragile is either broken or improved, or I'm sorry, unbroken or improved. So it's this idea that if something shows itself as an obstacle or a challenge and ultimately potentially has the capability of hurting us psychologically, emotionally, whatever it might be, that is also an opportunity for us to become improved and stronger through that process. And facing fear, like, man, facing fear is a crucial skill and a crucial talent that a lot of people lack, because most people are in their silk slippers and have forgotten what it is to actually want for something.
I mean, I think most people look and they're like, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? And I'm drinking the water and looking for more. Like that's kind of where our program is. Like, man, a drink of water. I'm thirsty. Let's have a drink of water. Like, we don't have to have a philosophical debate. There's water in there and I'm thirsty. You know, let's do this. I believe that's the biggest problem inside of what's happening to us right now is our own inability to deal with our own thoughts and to realize that everything you think is not real. Everything you like, you are the biggest liar in your life. The biggest liar in your life is you, because you don't question 90% of the thoughts you've had. I can give you a clear example. If you've ever had the thought, well, you know, I should leave my wife. You know, I think every guy who's married at some point has that thought, man, maybe we should just not be together. It doesn't mean you're going to leave your wife. That doesn't mean you're an evil person. It just means your brain spit out that thought in trying to compute everything that's going on. Like the thought itself is nothing. Like, you know, I mean, again, when I was talking about being underwater and cutting off your hand, people were thinking, man, I would cut off my hand. That doesn't mean you're really going to cut off your hand. You just had a thought, because I've led you down a path with my story. Like, our thoughts are not real. And as long as we believe our thoughts are real, then we're going to be knocking over the clerk. Like the video that Adam just showed, literally every scene of a grocery store we took, literally, we were in those lines. I had to get toilet paper for a family of 6. I had to wait in a 2-hour line. I'm like, what is this, 1985 Russia? Like, what's going on? And the police showed up, man. Like, the 4 cop cars pull up, and like there's police as they're opening the doors. And I tell the store clerk, I mean, we're in Laguna Beach, California. It's not like, you know, this isn't a rough neighborhood. I tell the store clerk, I'm like, man, this seems excessive. Like, I'm in a line and I got police monitoring me. He says, look, no. But the last 3 days, someone pushed me to the ground to get to the toilet paper. So today we asked the cops to come. But that's all somebody's crazy belief that, like, of all the things, you're going to die without toilet paper. Like, this isn't like food or staples. It's, I have to get that toilet paper or I'm in danger. And on that level, that person's probably not wrong. It's just some kind of self-preservation thing that's coming out. But the problem is our thoughts aren't real. Like, that's just a thought we had. Maybe we should dig deeper. And those of us who've conditioned ourselves to understand how to question our thoughts and decide, instead of reacting to every thought that comes up, decide what we want to create with our mind. Our mind's a beautiful tool. It's a beautiful tool. Like, but it is not who we are. Like, and just for your guys, and I know we're probably going over time. Fuck it. It's okay. I got here late, so it's what I do.
Don't worry about it.
But look at your hand. Like, if you're watching this, like, look at it. Your hand is an amazing tool. And it's also a lesson about civilization. It's quantity versus quality. Here's quality, here's quantity. Guess what? Without your thumb, you can't do anything. Like, you can't do anything. All of human civilization, 1 digit. Really 2, but, you know, 1 on each
Multiple
hand.
digits.
Right? But without these quantity guys, this is useless. Without quantity, quality is useless. There's your hand. You put them together into a fist. You can fight. You can use this to create anything, everything you study, right? But no one ever thinks, as miraculous as the hand is, nobody ever has this thought of, like, I'm a hand. Actually, I'm just a hand, and there's this body attached because I'm the beautiful thing. We don't do that, right? No matter how amazing the tool is, we don't confuse it, and that's because it's external. The mind is the same kind of a tool as the hand. The only problem is it's internal. And so we will end up starting to believe that we are our mind. I can give you a very quick example of how to do this. When you're angry, just imagine you're angry. That, you know, someone wronged you and you're angry and you're piling up this list of reasons why they wronged you. Who is it inside of you that knows you're angry? Because you know, I'm angry and I know I'm angry. How is that possible? If I am my mind, then I'm in the state of anger. I can't know that I'm angry and be angry at the same time, except for the mind is just like the hand. When my hand's a fist, I can see that it's a fist and I can feel it. Just like when I'm angry, I can see that I'm angry and I can feel it, because the mind is a tool just like the hand. But we forget this, and we start thinking we are our mind, and therefore we start running down. Every stray thought that comes suddenly starts to change change the trajectory of our life, and that is a miserable way to live, a miserable place to be. It will continually keep you locked in victimhood. You will never be enough. Everything will always be out to get you, because that's what the tool of the mind is for. The hand may be for opening cool jars and building stuff. The mind is to protect you from the thing rustling in the bushes. And if we let the mind become who we are, we will constantly run from every bush that rustles, even when it's just a beautiful day and the wind is blowing.
That was beautiful. That how you ended that too, like that. The wind rustling. No, I mean, I'm being completely serious. Like that. It's so true. It's so true how we have, we let. I don't know if you guys study epigenetics or like Bruce Lipton and stuff like that. Oh boy, hold on, my computer's freaking out here. But like just how we are as beings, right? We are, Kevin, you said it, and Adam, you might have said it too. Like, we're beings with a mind, just like we're beings with a hand. But what are we? We're human beings, but we're really 60 trillion cells living in a closed environment, right? And what are those cells made up of? Molecules. What are the molecules? Well, atoms, and the atoms are made up of subatomic particles. And what are those? Well, positive and negatively charged energy fields. So really, what are we? We're luminous beings of pure energy, right? And how you can direct that, energy, and how you can channel that energy makes like a huge difference in what you attract back to yourself too. So like just being able to have that and it takes practice, right? Like, and it takes practice every single day. Like people think, okay, I'm going to work really hard on training my mind, and then I'm going to go 4 months, and then I'm going to be fine. That's simply not true.
Well, that's how Michael Phelps did it. Michael Phelps had 3 hard workouts, really good ones, and then he won 7 gold medals.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Michael Jordan too.
Michael Jordan as well.
Yeah,
so Mike Tyson.
Tiger Woods. He picked up a golf club when he was 21 between
Muhammad
hookers
Ali.
And
it was like 3 hard workouts. He was really, really hard, dedicated at it. Like, that's your mind, right? Your mind is there to protect you, but it will protect you from your own greatness if you let it. Your mind, your ego will protect you from your own greatness, because it will take a lack of results. Your mind is scared of a lack of results. Think about in your life where you haven't done what you said you were going to do, or you haven't lost weight, or you haven't made the money, or what it is you haven't done. Your mind knows that this is painful. This is painful information. You've been trying to lose weight for 5 years and you can't lose the weight. This hurts. So the mind is going to say, how do I protect myself from this? Oh, I know. If I circle this lack of results with the label of trying, and I call it a struggle, now all these 5 years of lack of results are actually a struggle, and a struggle is hard, and I must be a strong person if I survive this struggle. So I've been struggling for 5 years to lose weight, and that makes me powerful. And that's how the mind takes a lack of results, where the truth is you just haven't lost the weight. You're not committed to it. Doesn't mean you're a good or bad person. You're just obviously not committed because you don't have the result. But your mind wants to protect you from that painful truth. Right? Like, the best thing you could do if you're in that situation is literally just admit to yourself that you didn't want that result. I don't want to lose the weight. Not yet. Right? Scott wanted to be healthy. Then he got a brain tumor. Then he really then he actually got committed to being healthy.
That'll probably save my life, ironically enough. That's
that is not an unusual story, Scott. Like, I have coached plenty of guys who get cancer or leukemia or brain tumor. What you just said is not exceptional. This is saving my life.
Yeah, and I believe, like, I've adopted the mindset it's happening for me, not to me. And the decisions I make because of this are going to lead to my salvation, not my doom. And I'll tell you, it just makes an incredible difference. I've made some decisions to focus on the nutritional aspects, more energy healing, more, all kinds of things that are really focusing on health and nutrition and mindset and building my immune system, those types of activities, which it's been fascinating to learn and just being a curious person again, and going down these rabbit holes. Sometimes you chase you find the caterpillar smoking the mushroom or whatever, sitting on the mushroom. But you start seeing there's a common thread here with a lot of these different books and technologies and treatment options. They all kind of lead to the same place, and it's just absolutely fascinating. And I'm looking forward to the day where I'll come on and say, hey, scan said it's free. But you know what I'm also not doing? I'm not obsessing over going to get scans every 3 months like people are trying to get me to do, because I'm like, I'm not worried about that. Yeah,
well, look, man, you're right in line with what Seneca said. Like, people think that you die one day and then your life is over, right? Here's the truth. If you're how old are you, Scott?
46.
Okay, cool. So hopefully that's not something that was secret. Now it's out.
No, God, I don't look a day over 70, but that's okay.
You're 46 years old, right? Like you're
Yeah.
46. You are 46 years dead. Period. Like those 46 years are dead. They're gone. They're forever etched in time. Nothing will ever change about every second of that time. It's gone. And so if you're watching this and you're 30 years dead. How many years you have left to live? Who knows? No one really knows. Guarantee you that. But you know, so like I applaud you for what you're doing, because you're just living every day right now. Like that's how you get the value out of life. That's how cancer can actually give you your life, is because you're like, fuck, every day matters. And guess what? It did, and it does. And all those 46 years that are dead, you probably didn't have that perspective. And right now, I can almost guarantee the next 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, 1 year, even if you only have 2 months left, you'll get more life out of the next 2 months, because you realize that every day is a lifetime. Once you start living every day as if it's its own lifetime, now you're living.
Right. And I'll tell you what, the morning of the diagnosis, before I met with the neurosurgeon, I did a video. It's on my YouTube Tumor Tales channel, where I just said, you know what, I'm really thankful for today. Like some people went to bed last night, didn't wake up today. I've got a chance to, you know, and trust me, it has not been easy. Like, you know, it's been a shit show in a lot of ways, but it's also been, you know, pretty phenomenal to go through that shit show and evolve with it. You know, if you think that you're going to get, you know, you're not going to have some crisis or some steps backwards in the process, you're lying to yourself. You're going to, right? And I'll tell you, the biggest challenge I had was the realization that, you know, the people around me were suffering more so than me, because they weren't in control. And some of the decisions I made, you know, I didn't have the patience to like really explain why I was doing it and stuff. And, you know, there was some damage done there that I'm still kind of repairing, but you know what, I've forgiven myself for it. And I said, you know what, you did the best you could with the data you had and the life you had at the time. And you just got to move forward. So
look at this call. There's 3 men on this call. Who's going to die first? Anyone who with any certainty says an answer has no idea. Like, it's crazy. Like, food industry.
How much we betting?
Yeah,
that's a really good question. Also, what's your address, Scott? Because if we're betting good amounts of money, I'm gonna win this bet.
We would see these reports called like morbidity reports. Like, what is the % chance that you're gonna die from something? And my dad and I used to always laugh, because he would say, "Look at this. It's the % chance you're gonna die. Do you think we should tell the FDA it's 100? Like, there's all of us are going to die. Like, we don't know what from, we don't know how. You have you now have a name and a picture of something that seems very real, and a timeline ish that someone has given you. But the truth is, it doesn't mean shit. I mean, you might live 20 times that. You might get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Right.
You might fall out of your bed and break your neck.
Right.
Who knows? So, you know, it just live today. That's what we have right now. That's what's guaranteed. Live today.
And that's the number one, I think, takeaway from all of this. You want to know what the number one methodology of survival is through this pandemic? Like, I'm going to give you the biggest survival tip. Now, remember, I've been through multiple survival courses. I've literally had to live off the land for extended periods of time. Like, I do it for fun now and teach civilians how to do it. So I'm getting ready to give you the number one greatest survival tip that you can get from anybody in the world. And this is it. You ready for this?
I'm going to shut this meeting off right now and make a cliffhanger.
See you next week.
Here it is. Here's the number one survival tip. Here's the number one survival tip. You ready?
Yes.
Ready? Stop trying to control everything. That's your number one survival tip. Like, that is it. You want your number one survival tip? Don't try and control everything. Identify the things in your life that are worth attempting to make better, and focus on making those better, starting with you. Like the number one survival tip of all of this is start with you and make you better. If you're not happy with where you are in life, you're at a perfect opportunity right now to hit the giant fucking reset button. If you're not happy with where your business is in life, you're at the perfect opportunity right now to hit the giant reset button. Your business will never amount to anything. Your family connection will not grow and prosper. You as an individual will not become better, even though you say you want to. You won't lose the weight you want to lose. You won't become fucking more connected to whatever spiritual connection you want to have unless you stop trying to control everything and understand that you and your ability to control you is the crucial aspect of all survival. The mentality of survival is not about surviving. Surviving is the lowest level of subsistence possible. Surviving is just staying alive. Literally, like, hey, I got food, water, and shelter. That's the lowest fucking level of survival. And that is bullshit. Because in any survival situation that you get into, it's not about surviving. It's about prospering. It's about continuously working to make my position in that space or circumstance better. So to be a victim of circumstance is a fucking choice. Here is your number one survival tip. Change your mind. Stop trying to control. Be better right now because you've got the opportunity to do it.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, it reminds me of a quote. Circumstance does not make the man. It only reveals him to himself. And you know what?
That's why what I started this whole thing saying, and it's from Viktor Frankl, I want to give him full credit, is that the highest honor bestowed on man is the ability to look fate in the face and not flinch. Look things we cannot control in the face and not flinch, knowing we're enough or we're not. And look, sometimes in your life, you're not. Like just sometimes you're not enough. Like people say that all the time. I feel like I'm not enough as a parent. You're probably not. No one is. But we have an opportunity to do everything we know how and can. And those are the parents that end up really helping their children because they act even though they're not enough. And let's face it, no one's enough to be a parent. No one. We like no one. But if you try, if you show up and you care and you try, bam, that's the gold standard for parenting. Show up, care, try. If you can do those three things, you are as good a parent as you'll ever be. As powerfully imperfect as we are able to do as mere mortals. And that's always been enough. So, hey, Scott, thank you very, very much for having us on here.
Real quick before we go, the website again, the company is Forge Legend. The website is
ForgeLegend.com.
ForgeLegend.com for the men, AwakenAthena.com for the women. My wife and a group of 6 female coaches have been trained the same way. We're fucking badasses. That program, the free program has started there as of Monday of this week, next week for the men. So if you go there and it tries to sell you something, don't buy it. On Monday, we'll have a free program for literally anyone in the world who needs help in this time. We're here.
And then you'll send me the link to the video. I'll post it on Facebook and stuff and promote it here in Minnesota to, we got it. And I'll encourage people in my network to promote it too. I really appreciate your time, you guys. Like I highlighted my week, man. Like this is like big time. Like I'm more fired up just talking to you guys again. So I really do appreciate it. So boom.
Good to see you, buddy.
All right, guys. We'll talk soon.
Later, Scott.
Bye-bye.